The chair of the Border Security Caucus, Congressman Andy Biggs. Congressman, really stunning what you just heard from Jason and showing us, first of all, that battle with the cartels right there at our southern border. And yet our administration is like, what problem with the border? But this new number that literally just came in, and it was very interesting. Jason pointed it out. It was the first thing I thought about, too. They didn't really want to release the new numbers because it wasn't going to be good for the administration. They do it late on a Friday night, try to do it with very little fanfare, and the number turns out to be basically the worst border in terms of being open border in American history, 2.3 million in one fiscal year. Maybe your reaction, first of all, to this really stunning number, Congressman.
Yeah, it's stunning. It's outrageous, actually, and it's remarkable that they released it when they did. I'll just tell you that the Border Patrol Association was going to actually release the numbers on their own if their leadership didn't. And what's most remarkable is we talk about 600,000 known gotaways, 2.3 million encounters. But there's probably an additional 600,000 to 800,000 unknown gotaways, the ones that we don't count because we just don't know how many are in that group or whatever. And that's the people that are the most dangerous because they don't want to be caught. They're the ones that are bringing in terrorists and criminal gang members, and they're the ones bringing in the drugs. And so this administration has been more than derelict. They've been intentional in not only opening the border, but trying to deceive the American people about what's happening on the border.
You know, and to that point, obviously a lot of the people who are coming in and not even on the radar, obviously they're trying to find them, but the gotaways, as you point about, the unknown ones, many of them are carrying drugs. And as Jason just pointed out, 14,000 pounds of fentanyl. And you know how toxic even just a small little bit of it is. I mean, it is incredibly toxic. Governor Abbott wants to make dealers and producers of fentanyl eligible for murder charges. If the GOP takes over the House, will you push to make sure that something like that happens and that the border is addressed immediately, and especially the drug crisis, the human smuggling crisis, too?
Yeah, that's one of my goals. I just introduced a bill, Rita, that would allow states to enforce federal immigration law because the feds aren't doing it. So we can introduce legislation and push for it, but with this administration having the power, they don't want to do anything. But here's the way to think of it. If you take a sprinklet of, let's say, one of those little sugar packets, throw it down, put your finger on it, put it up, you're going to get 3 or 4 grains. That's enough to kill you of fentanyl. So if someone, as Governor Abbott said, if someone is knowingly distributing this, selling this, they are essentially committing a chemical poisoning. They're killing somebody by a chemical poisoning, and they should be held responsible as anybody else who's killing somebody. And so I don't think it's inappropriate to do that. I think I hope that my colleagues will join me in this because this is a chemical poisoning because China's involved. They're providing the precursor drugs. The cartels are there. They are lacing not just the pills, but powder and other drugs. This is a very serious crisis. Over 107,000 opioid deaths last year, and 95% of that fentanyl coming across the southern border. Yeah,
1,000%. And the administration doesn't even talk about it at all, which is really just so disconcerting. And in the flip side, Congressman, this was amazing to us. Homeland Security is looking for volunteers to help at our southern border. Take a look at what the responsibilities include. Migrant personal property management, meal prep, supply runs. Areas include El Centro, California, El Paso, in Texas, also Tucson and Yuma, Arizona. When you see this, and there were reports that it's going to cost taxpayers basically $30,000 a person because they have to pay for the person to leave their post, typically at Pentagon or wherever it is, and then they're going down there to basically, it sounds like in many ways, sort of, be a nanny in many ways to the migrants. What are your thoughts about this? Is this a good use of taxpayer dollars?
No, it's another missing of the mark of this administration. They want to treat a symptom instead of the problem. They should fix the border and stop people from entering illegally. Then you don't have to worry about 2,300 people in a facility designed for 1,200. You don't have to worry about the environmental degradation, the piles of garbage. It's almost like a toxic waste dump in some places along the border because of what you see and what the illegal border crossers are dropping. This administration campaigned on an open border. It's totally gotten away from them. They need to be held accountable. This is one more thing that Secretary Mayorkas needs to be impeached for, because this is being done again to divert and distract, and we should not be sending people diverting their job. Are they not critical wherever they are? To send them down to the border to basically clean up after the Biden administration's border crisis.
And before I let you go, Congressman, there's a new Trafalgar poll that shows in your state, Trump-backed Kari Lake in the lead in the state of Arizona against Democrat Katie Hobbs. You can see it's still a very tight race, but she is leading in that gubernatorial race. What do you think is going to happen? I mean, Election Day is now just a little over 2 weeks away.
Yeah, well, so Arizona's been voting already with early ballots, but I think Kari Lake's going to win this, and I think it's going to be a wider margin than 3 or 4%, actually. And she's going to have long coattails. I think it's going to help carry some of the other Republicans across the line here in Arizona, and it's going to be a nice red wave in Arizona.
Congressman, thank you very much. We're going to be following this closely. Great to have you on such important topics today. Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you, Rita. Good to be with you.
You too. Thank you very